How are you, Ms. Smith? Um, Thank you for coming today. We really appreciate your time to talk about Sasha and how we can support her at our school. The main purpose of today's meeting is to look at Sasha's academic testing, talk about her strength and areas of need in reading, math, and writing, and think together about what kind of support or services might help her. If I say anything that's confusing, or if I use a term that is not clear or doesn't make sense to you, please feel free to stop me. I'm very happy to slow down, repeat, or explain things in a different way so that you can catch up with me all the time. Before we look at any scores, I want to talk about Sasha herself. During testing, Sasha was polite, cooperative, and willing to try. She followed the directions, stayed with the tasks, and kept a positive attitude. She clearly has ideas to share, especially when she has time to think and write. And in math, her basic calculation skills and quick facts are close to the average for a grade. In writing, when she was given a clear prompt, she can express her ideas in a way that is similar to many children her age. These are very important strengths we need to build on. The main test I will talk about is the Woodcock-Johnson 4th edition test of achievement. It's a one-to-one test that looks at how a child is doing in reading, math, and writing. It's a norm reference test, which means we compare Sarah's scores to the scores of other first graders across the country. It has several parts, such as reading single letters or words, understanding short tests, solving math problems, spelling words, and writing sentences. This test does not say Sarah is on page 20 of a book. Instead, it tells us if her academic skills are similar, lower, or higher than most first graders right now. And we never use this test alone. We put this test results together with other data, such as classroom observations, classroom work, like homework, and what you see at home. To make the scores make sense, I like to use a picture that we often show parents. This is a picture that we call the bell curve. You could imagine that all the first graders across the country who took this test, the same test as Sasha, are standing somewhere under the curve. The tall middle part is where most children stand. We call this area the average range. On this test, the average standard score is 100, and most students scored between 85 and 115 in that middle range. As we move to the left, the scores are lower than the average. The scores are called below the average, low, and very low. As we move to the right, the scores are higher than the average, and the scores are called above the average or higher or high. When I share Sasha's scores, I will tell you the number and where it sits on that curve. For example, in the middle average or in the very low range on the left, or in the high range on the right. That way, you could picture how her performance compares to other first graders across the country. Let me briefly describe how Sarah looked during the test, because that would help us trust the test results. Sasha came to the testing room calmly and politely. At first, she was a little bit shy, but after a short conversation, she relaxed and answered my question very well. She followed my directions and tried her best. She focused well on short, clear tasks like simple math and writing single words. When we moved into reading, especially longer words and sentences, I could see that it was much harder for her. She slowed down, sometimes looked away from the page, and a few times said, I don't know, because she understood the tasks, cooperated, and tried. I feel those scores give a realistic picture of how she is working right now. Now I will walk you through those scores or tests, starting with reading, writing, and then math, and I will keep linking them back to the bell curve. Let me begin with reading because this is Sarah's biggest areas of need. Her broad reading score was 55, and her basic reading skills score was 59. Both are in the very low range, far to the left on the bell curve. This means her overall reading comprehension skills are much lower than those of most first graders across the country. Specifically on the reading subtest, we could see the same pattern. When Sarah read single letters and words out loud, she read very slowly and made many mistakes, often guessing from the first letter instead of sounding out the whole word. When she read like made-up words that test the letter sound correspondence, she had trouble using phonics and blending sounds. On a task where she read short passages with missing words, she had a great difficulty finding a word that makes sense, mostly because the reading itself was so hard for her. On a timed sentence reading task, she read simple sentences and marked them as true or false, but she worked very slowly and got fewer correct than most children of her age. So if we place these scores on the bell curve, almost all of her reading scores sit in the very low or low range on the left. In everyday words, matching letters to sounds, sounding out words, and understanding what she read are very hard for her right now. In a word, reading is her biggest challenge right now. She will need strong step-by-step phonics instruction, lots of practice sounding out words, and many chances to read very simple storybooks at her level to build skill and confidence. Now, I will move on to math, which gives us a more mixed picture. Sarah's broad mathematics score was 80 in the low average range, but just a bit left center on the curve. Her math calculation skills score was 91 in the average range, right around the middle. When I read her math word problems, she often struggled to understand what the problem is asking and whether she should add or subtract. That score was in the very low range, far to the left. When she solved the written addition and subtraction, she did about as well as most first graders. On a timed math facts test with simple addition and subtraction, her accuracy and speed were also about average for her grade. So on the bell curve, her score for basic calculations and math facts sits in the average range in the middle, while her score for word problems sit much farther to the left in a very low range. In simple terms, her number work and the math facts are her strength, but the math word problems are very hard, especially because of the language, and reading comprehension, she's likely to do better when math problems use short, clear sentences, when key numbers and words are highlighted, and when we add pictures or number lines to show what is happening. Now let's come to the part of writing. Sasha's broadened written language score was 85, and her reading expression score was 86. Both are in the very low average range, a little below the middle of the bell curve, but much closer to the center than his reading scores. She wrote down words that I said. She spelled some simple words correctly, but made mistakes on longer words or less familiar words. That score was slightly below average. When she wrote short sentences to pictures, she was able to share her ideas at about the average level for her age, even though she still made spelling and punctuation mistakes. That is relatively a strength. Timed sentence writing task, where she had to turn 3 words into correct sentences quickly. She worked slowly and wrote only a few correct sentences, and that score fell in the very low range. On the bell curve, that means one important writing score, sharing ideas in writing samples, sits near the middle in the average range, while spelling is just below average, and timed sentence writing is in the very low range. In everyday words, Sasha has ideas and can put them into writing when she has enough time and a clear prompt, which is very encouraging. She needs help with spelling, using capital letters and periods, writing clear, complete sentences, and writing smoothly when she's timed. If we put everything together, we could see that Sasha is a kind, cooperative child who tries and has ideas to share. Her biggest challenge is reading, especially sounding out words and understanding what she read. And her reading scores are mostly in the very low range on the bell curve. In math, her calculation and math facts are around the average range, but word problems are very difficult and fall in the very low range. In writing, she can express her ideas at about an average level when she has time, but she needs help with spelling, sentence structure, and writing quickly. Okay, based on these results and what her teacher sees in class, we believe Sasha would benefit from the following interventions. Firstly, daily explicit phonics and reading instruction at her grade level, with many chances to practice sounding out words and reading simple books. What's more, continued practice of basic math facts, plus extra support for word problems using short, clear language, keywords highlighted, and visual support such as pictures or number lines. She will also benefit from guided practice in spelling and sentence writing, extra time for written work, and chances to talk through her ideas before she writes. Our next step as a team is to look at these scores together with her classroom performance and any other information we have, and decide whether Sasha meets criteria for special education services, especially in reading, and to plan what her learning program should look like. Thank you for coming today and for working with us. We share the same goal to help Sasha feel successful and confident at her school. And these results give us a starting point for planning that help.